Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sam and I'm starting a new series today. So I had this idea for a new series based off books that are super similar because I read a lot of books within the last couple of years that I've noticed are almost the same book or at least have very similar vibes. So I wanted to kind of like rank them. Not necessarily based on worst to best, but I'm gonna call it good, better, best. So all of these books were good, but I preferred one over the other or two over a different one. So we're gonna rank them, and we're basically just ranking it off of my personal preference. So we're not really ranking it off of which one's like a better writing style or necessarily a better book, but which one I personally enjoyed more. So let's get into it. So before we start, I do want to preface this by saying that I'm not saying that any of these books are bad. Like, there's a reason it's called good, better, best. Like, they are all good. I did enjoy all of these books, but I did enjoy some of them more than others. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon will notify you when I post. Through the summer, I am trying to post on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And let's get into the video. So the theme for the first episode of this little series here is going to be Set at Sea or pirates, specifically YA duologies that have to do with pirates or are set at sea and that have very similar vibes. So first up, for good, we have Fable. This is by Adrienne Young and it follows our main character, Fable, and she was left on an island by her father 4 years ago after her mother drowned, and it was an island of thieves, and she has had to kind of like learn how to fend for herself, and now she is enlisting the help of a young trader named West to get her off the island and go find her father and demand a place on his crew. This is mostly it is a fantasy, but the fantasy elements are very, very subtle. There's a tiny little bit of magic, but it is mostly more of like a pirate type of thing, less on the fantasy, more just like straight pirates, and like traders and stuff. But it was good. I did really enjoy this book. If we were doing this by cover, this one would win for sure because the cover is phenomenal, especially once you put it next to the second book. I love these covers. But the story itself is fast-paced, it's intriguing, it's really fun. I really loved the setting, like the whole being set at sea thing is a story that I really, really like, and this one did it very well. The world building was very simple, but it was very well written. I thought the actual writing style was very nice. I enjoyed the story as a whole. The only reason it didn't make it higher on this list was because I didn't really care for the romance so much. Like, it's there, it's subtle, but I didn't think West was all that interesting of a character. He's a very typical YA character. There wasn't really anything about him that stood out. Basically, his only character trait was being a man, and that was it, basically. So I felt like the romance here was subpar, but the actual story was good. I really enjoyed it. It was fun, it was fast-paced, it was action-packed, it was adventurous. Fable herself is a very strong heroine. I really liked reading about her, and the writing style was both lyrical and descriptive without being like overly bogged you down or frustrating to read or like annoying. So all in all, if you like pirate stories, you will like this one. It is a good contender. Next up, for better, we have All the Stars and Teeth. This is by Adeline Grace, and it follows our main character, Amora Montera. And Amora is a princess in a kingdom on an island, and there's like 7 surrounding islands, but she, in order to secure her place as heir to the throne, she has to demonstrate that she's mastered the soul magic that's supposed to be like this really dangerous magic her family carries, and during her demonstration things go very, very wrong and she ends up having to flee for her life. And she ends up working with this pirate Bastion, and in exchange for helping him get his magic back, he is going to help her, and then they end up like this whole like having to save the kingdom thing. There's this dark magic and lots of other things are happening from there. This is another duology. It is super fun. I also really like the cover. I think this would still be like second for covers. I think Fable still wins out on the covers, but I love this cover as well. This story had much more complex world building than Fable. It was a lot more magic, a lot more political things, and all of that kind of wrapped up into a much more complex story, which I really enjoyed. I also felt like the characters were a little bit more dynamic. I really liked Fable herself in Fable, but I found that the side characters were a little bit lacking. This one, I felt like the side characters were a lot more developed, a lot more interesting, and I feel like my lighting just got very off right there, so I think I fixed it. But for this story, I felt like the side characters were a lot more dynamic, a lot more interesting. I liked the love interest in this story a lot more. I thought Bastian was more well-rounded. He's still very much like a YA love interest, but I just thought there was more depth to him than there was to West in Fable, and I just found the romance itself a little bit more intriguing and a little bit more interesting to me. Alright, and then for best, so this was my favorite of the three, and that is Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. I have talked a few times about how Trisha Levenseller is one of my favorite YA authors, and that still stands. I loved this duology. This follows our main character Alosa, and she is a pirate and the daughter of the Pirate King, and he sends her on a mission to retrieve an ancient lost map that leads to this legendary treasure trove. So she ends up letting herself get captured by her enemies in order to search their ship for this map. However, the first mate, Raiden, who has captured her and is like supposed to be watching over her, is nothing like she thought, and things kind of start to change from there. I loved Alosa as a character. She is so much fun. She is witty, she is strong, she is described as the female Jack Sparrow on the front of this book, and while I don't think that it is possible for anybody to compare to Jack Sparrow in a lot of ways, I think she comes fairly close. I loved the banter in this book. I thought she was so hilarious. I thought it was so much fun. I loved her and Raiden together. As far as the plot, it is fast-paced. It's not as complex as All the Stars and Teeth, but I felt like it was a little bit more fleshed out than Fable. Just like a tad. Honestly, this one and Fable are pretty comparable as far as plot goes. Where this one wins out is really the romance. I enjoyed the romance in this book so much more. I felt like Alosa and Raiden were really great together. I felt like they were interesting. I thought both of them had different personalities, and I loved the banter between them so much. I also really enjoyed the audiobook for this. This was the one that I listened to as an audiobook, and I loved the narrator. I thought that the voice was perfect. It really added to the story, and I'm really picky about audiobooks, so I thought this one was done so well. Okay, so let's be honest, absolutely none of us are surprised that I ended up ranking those based on which romance I liked best. I have always said that I am a romance reader first, a fantasy reader second. I will not apologize for that. So that is my opinion on good, better, best for books set at sea, YA pirate duologies, whatever you want to call them. That's my opinion. If you have another similar book that you think I should read, or if you have a different opinion about one of those books, let me know in the comments. I'm always interested in hearing what y'all have to say, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!